They're afraid to reach out to you. Respected colleagues, people they've worked with for years, and they're afraid to reach out to you. It's very clear the FBI has been able to achieve that goal. Mr. Allen, your experience? Former Employee of the Year?
I've had a few colleagues reach out who are no longer with the office, just to check in periodically, which has been appreciated. But other than that, I've been pretty much like ghosted by everybody. So,
and honestly, shame on those agents who respect you and know you and don't have the courage to reach out and support you. There are members of my family who are FBI agents. I love and respect them. But we have deep concerns about the agency you used to work with. And I want to read you something. This should frighten people. It should get their attention, I would hope, but it doesn't. The East German Stasi, one of the most effective suppressive agency in the history of the world, this is what they would do. They devised a strategy and tactics to disintegrate a target's personal circumstances. Surely that has happened to you. Their career, surely that has happened to you. Not only your career as an FBI, but it precludes you from working anywhere else. For heaven's sakes, you have to ask others to help you to maintain just food on the table for your families. How can anyone on the other side of the aisle say, that's okay with me? Further Stasi tactics ruin their relationships and their reputation in the community. Tell me that hasn't happened to each of you. I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. Appreciate that. The gentleman recognizes, or the gentleman from Florida is recognized.
So which Americans were being targeted? Now, August 2nd, 2022, a media organization obtained a copy of a document which whistleblowers subsequently authenticated to the committee that is styled the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide on Militia Violent Extremists. Mr. O'Boyle, are you generally familiar with that guide?
Yes.
And that guide identified certain things that made people more likely to be deemed a threat or terrorists, didn't it?
Yes.
And wasn't one of those things just the number 2 and the letter A next to each other?
Yes, it was.
And in your experience as a law enforcement official, does putting the word 2 or the letter 2 and A next to each other make someone more likely to be violent or law-breaking?
No.
And if someone signified the right, that they support the right to bear arms, was that also something in the symbol guide?
Yes.
And how about, this one really got me, the Betsy Ross flag. Was the Betsy Ross flag in the terrorism symbol guide?
It was.
And what about the Betsy Ross flag makes someone more likely to be a violent extremist?
I wish there was a reasonable explanation for that question.
There isn't. And people blew the whistle and said, this stuff is crazy. Americans are being targeted. Mr. Friend, you ever been to a school board meeting?
Yes, I have.
FBI ever sent you to the parking lot of a school board meeting?
Yes, they have.
And in the parking lot of a school board meeting where the FBI sent you, you were taking down information regarding people's license plates.
That's correct.
Now, it wasn't the first time you'd been to a school board meeting, was it?
No, I went on my own as a private citizen.
As a parent.
Yes.
And so there you were. It must have been quite an interesting perspective. There you were taking down the information of people, parents attending school board meetings on behest of the FBI, and you had been one of those parents at a school board meeting. How did that feel?
Well, after I attended privately, my colleagues teased me that they were probably going to start investigating me.
You used to go after the worst of the worst, didn't you?
Yes, I believe so.
You went after people who looked at child porn,
Yes.
people who were sexually exploiting children.
Yes.
And then you were in the parking lot of a school board meeting, taking down the information of parents. What happened to the cases that you were working to protect our communities from the worst predators that exist?
I was told they were not to be resourced, and then after I was suspended, they were handed off to local law enforcement.
Wow, so the FBI just decided it was more important to have you in that parking lot of that school board meeting than getting the worst of the worst away from people that they could harm.
That's correct.
But you deserve the consequences you are getting, according to the ranking member. Mr. O'Boyle, the ranking member said that when people break the law, they deserve the consequences they get. And it doesn't matter that they served in the military. So what law did you break before the FBI packed up all your stuff and moved it across the country to Virginia?
No true law. The only thing I broke was not towing the line for the FBI. Like I said when I opened, my oath is to the Constitution, not to the FBI.
And our laws provide you avenues to talk to Congress, to talk to your supervisors about those concerns, right?
Correct?
And so you didn't deviate from that, did you?
No.
You didn't go to the media first, did you?
No.
You used what the law provided, and your family has paid an exquisite price for that, haven't they?
They have.
How old were your children when they moved you across the country?
6, 5, 3, and 2 weeks.
A 2-week-old baby. Could you get your stuff?
6 weeks later.
Oh, so for 6 weeks, almost every possession to your name the FBI had and wouldn't give back to you. How did you, what time of year was it? Was it winter, summer?
When I reported, it was in September. So when we were traveling, it was summertime essentially. So we had basically summer clothes, but then we were basically stranded in Wisconsin, which is where we're from. It gets cold there pretty quick. And
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. I'm a Florida man. But what was it like when you had to go and explain to your wife that you didn't have coats for your children because the FBI wouldn't give them back to you?
it was horrible. I mean, we were asking family for clothes and excuse me. It was a difficult time.
Yeah, you became a charity case, didn't you?
I did, and now I get derided for that. I never thought I'd have to accept charity in my life. I thought I would be able to take care of my family, but I'm grateful for everyone who has provided charity to me. That even includes a former colleague's church. I would name the church to give them recognition, but I'm too worried that the FBI would send informants to infiltrate that church as well.
Yeah, well, they've already done that with the Catholics. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from North Dakota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Durham report dropped this week, and it's an absolute, the politically motivated misconduct by the FBI and the DOJ is outlined in very, very specific detail, and it's an absolutely damning indictment on the FISA court. And the response from DOJ and Director Wray continues to be that all of the people engaged in that conduct are no longer with the DOJ or the FBI. And Director Wray has emphasized the importance of doing things the right way. Essentially, it's all in the past, nothing to see here, just trust us. Mr. Allen, do you think the FBI leadership does things the right way?
No, sir.
Mr. Friend?
No, sir.
Mr. O'Boyle?
No, sir.
And the Durham report detailed that submitted warrant applications to the FISA court without interviewing witness, failed to correct warrants after learning more information about a witness's reliability, failed to disclose exculpatory evidence to a secret court, omitted information that contradicted what they had told the court previously when they were trying to get extensions, and in one case, they actually fabricated an application for the warrant. And in a letter dated on May 15th, the DOJ informed us that we don't have to worry about it anymore because they revised some forms, issued a whole bunch of new guidance. They promised us that they have a better way to maintain files. They implemented more training. The FBI loves training. The bureaucrats love training. They have more internal oversight. They have a rigorous and robust oversight program. They instituted technical updates, and they automated workflow. You know what's not mentioned anywhere in that letter? Consequences. There are no consequences, no penalty, no punishment. So if there's no consequences, there's no prosecutions, then there is no incentive for the DOJ or the FBI to hold themselves accountable. And the single best way for the American people to learn about the abuses carried out by our government is by whistleblower testimony. And so the single most effective way to keep these things from coming to light is to make sure it is known that dissent will not be tolerated and speaking out will be dealt with severely. And just this week, the IRS whistleblower was removed from a case at the request of the DOJ in a clear case of retaliation and violation of the law. So, Mr. Allen, when we're talking about this and what you all have gone through and your families have gone through is just heart-wrenching, and Congressman Gates just walked through it, but what are the consequences moving forward for your colleagues on whistleblowing?
I mean, I think in light of what's happened to us and what's happened to all the people involved with that investigation, I think it definitely has to send a chilling effect across the agency, and there's just an incongruence in how personnel at a high level have been treated and how we've been treated.
Mr. Friend, this is a public setting, we're testifying, but can you tell the American people what has happened in your life since you have come forward and given this information?
Well, thank you for that. Beyond leaking my medical information to the New York Times and insinuating that I was under disciplinary action for shooting a firearm in my backyard inappropriately, I was also denied the opportunity to seek outside employment on 2 occasions, denied my training records, which in essence is denying me outside employment. The Inspector General is now aware of the illegal and improper gag order that was issued on me that basically told me that I was not allowed to speak to my family or my attorney about the existence of an investigation.
So if one of your former colleagues is looking at this and watching this, and they have information that they think is subject to being shed light on with the American people, do you think how you've been treated would give them pause?
It has, and that's why they laundered the information to me, and that's how I've been able to expose more things now from the outside.
And Mr. O'Boyle, we just heard from your interaction with Mr. Gates and how all of this occurred and all of the hardships you've gone through. If one of your really good friends, your former colleagues, came to you and said, I have this thing that is being covered up, and I think the American people need to know about it, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them first to pray about it, long and hard. And I would tell them I could take it to Congress for them, or I could put them in touch with Congress, but I would advise them not to do it.
So you would legitimately try to protect one of your colleagues from doing what you have done?
Absolutely.
And how do you think that solves being able to shine light on corruption, weaponization, any kind of misconduct that exists with the American people?
It doesn't solve it. But the FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And we are all examples of that.
I can't think of a more sobering way to end a hearing. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I want to thank, we say this every hearing that we thank the witnesses, and I mean it every time, but I really mean it. Thank you for coming forward, sharing your story, and standing up for the Constitution, doing your duty. We appreciate it. Mr. Levitt, thank you for your representation of these individuals. We thank you for the powerful testimony that you gave and the way you gave it and the way you've conducted yourselves. And with that, without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for witnesses or additional materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.